What would happen if one morning you woke up and learned that the water flowing from your tap was no longer safe? Or if it was announced that water in your city would only be supplied during certain hours? This scenario, which still seems distant for most people today, has become a concrete reality for more and more regions of the world in the 21st century. The world faces a silent yet deepening crisis, the freshwater crisis. Contrary to popular belief, this crisis is not caused solely by the complete depletion of water. Rather, it stems from mismanagement, unjust distribution, and consumption patterns that ignore the future. The total amount of water on Earth has remained largely constant. What has changed is who gets access to this water, when, and under what conditions. Climate change has disrupted rainfall patterns, prolonged droughts, and changed the geographic distribution of water in ways that are hard to reverse. Population growth, unplanned urbanization, and excessive agricultural use have turned water from just a natural resource into a strategic tool. In the New World Order, countries now focus not only on finding water, but also on producing, transforming, and managing it. At this point, the main question was, would water really run out, or did humanity need to learn how to manage it? Hope from the sea, the journey from salt to life. The Middle East, one of the first regions where access to water became difficult, responded to the crisis with solutions born out of necessity. Israel has adopted systems that turn seawater into potable water, not as a choice, but as a state policy due to chronic water scarcity. Thanks to massive desalination plants built along the Mediterranean coast, much of the country's drinking water is supplied from the sea. Reverse osmosis technology was used. Energy costs were gradually reduced, and both agriculture and cities were supplied by the same infrastructure. Initially, the most debated topic was whether this water was suitable for human health. Through scientific regulations, minerals were re-added to desalinated water to meet drinking standards. As a result, Israel became one of the few countries able to produce more water than it needs. A similar approach was followed in the oil-rich Gulf countries. Saudi Arabia and its neighbors adopted the idea of converting energy into water. Solar-powered desalination plants have been built, and seawater has become the main drinking source for large cities, reducing excessive extraction of groundwater. However, the main challenges for the spread of these systems in every country were high initial investment costs and energy requirements. Thus, seawater desalination has emerged as an effective solution, particularly for countries with access to energy. From waste to resource, the second life of water. Another response to the water crisis was founded on the idea that used water does not have to be lost forever. Singapore has become one of the most advanced countries in this approach. Through the new water system, wastewater is treated with advanced biological and chemical filters to reach standards fit for drinking. Social acceptance was as important as technical success in this process. The public's hesitation to drink water from waste was overcome with transparent information campaigns and scientific data. Over time, recycled water was proven safe and gained public acceptance. A similar transformation took place in drought-prone California. Treated water was directed to agricultural lands. Groundwater reserves were deliberately refilled, and inner-city water sharing was optimized. These practices demonstrated that recycled water could be a permanent and reliable solution, not just a temporary fix. Solutions from the sky, rediscovering rain. For some countries, the solution lay not in high technology, but in forgotten traditions. India responded to the modern water crisis with methods thousands of years old. Rainwater harvesting on rooftops became mandatory, ancient water storage structures were restored, and micro-dams were built in rural areas. These methods not only supplied water, but also replenished groundwater and reduced flood risks. On the arid continent of Australia, rainwater was managed with smart storage systems. Underground rainwater reservoirs were built in cities, parks, and green areas were irrigated with this water, and greywater systems were popularized for domestic use. Rainwater alone did not meet all needs, but it significantly reduced the strain on urban water supplies. Agriculture at the center of crisis, producing more with less water. The fact that roughly 70% of fresh water globally is used in agriculture reveals why solutions are concentrated in this area. Traditional irrigation methods began to be abandoned. Through drip irrigation and smart farming, water was delivered directly to roots. Soil moisture was measured with sensors, and unnecessary watering was largely eliminated. In the Netherlands, agriculture has essentially been moved to laboratory conditions. Soilless farming systems have become widespread. Closed greenhouses have prevented evaporation, and water savings have risen up to 90%. These examples proved that agriculture is possible even in water-poor countries. The transformation of cities, from water consumers to water managers. The water crisis has reshaped not only rural areas, but also cities. In China, the sponge city model was developed with permeable roads, green roofs, and water-retaining parks. These cities do not just drain rainwater, they store, filter, and reuse it. In Europe, the Greywater revolution has taken place. Shower and sink water are now used in toilets. Dual pipe systems have become mandatory in new buildings, and per capita water consumption has significantly decreased. Cities now prioritize resilience to crises over complete water independence. Invisible but decisive solutions, policy, and behavior. Technology alone was not enough. Water was redefined as both a fundamental human right and a limited resource. Basic usage was kept accessible for all, while excessive consumption was met with gradual pricing. Digital meters started monitoring consumption in real time. Social awareness became the cornerstone of this transformation. Water awareness education was provided in schools, crisis scenarios were covered in the media, and daily habits, though slowly, changed permanently. Individual savings were not sufficient on their own, but they significantly reduced total consumption. From global to individual, a multi-layered approach to the water issue. For the first time in history, water was discussed not just as a natural cycle, but as a global crisis. Thus, the solution required universal policies, national plans, and individual responsibility at the same time. Internationally, water was discussed as a security issue related to food security, energy production, migration, and conflict. Basin-based joint management models were developed for transboundary waters, and data sharing was made mandatory. At the national level, water policies were redefined. Unified water authorities were established, long-term plans prepared, and climate scenarios included in planning. Crop patterns were determined by water availability in agriculture. Urban water losses were reduced, and strict legal regulations and sanctions were introduced to prevent water pollution. At the individual level, daily water consumption habits were changed. Greywater and rainwater systems were popularized. Products with low water footprints were encouraged, and food waste reduction helped decrease invisible water consumption. The most critical threshold, recognizing water as a global common good. Underlying all these solutions is a fundamental reality: the lack of binding recognition of water as a global common good in international law. Today, we have technology, science, and solution models, but no binding global governance. Water is still treated as a subject of national sovereignty, a commercial commodity, and a tool of short-term national interests. Without a change in this approach, the impact of even the most advanced technologies is limited. If water were recognized globally as a common good, transboundary waters could stop being sources of conflict. Excessive consumption could be limited globally. Inequality in water technologies could be reduced, and efforts against climate change could be strengthened. The reason this has not been fully achieved so far is clear. Water means sovereignty, economic power, and political leverage. Yet history has repeatedly shown that resources not shared lead to losses for everyone. Conclusion: water wars or water cooperation? The water crisis is not an unsolvable problem for humanity. However, the solution is only possible by acting without delay, thinking holistically, and sharing responsibility. There are two paths ahead: a future where water becomes a source of conflict, or a new order where water is at the center of cooperation. In the new world, those who survive will not be the ones with the most water, but the ones who manage their water the smartest. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share your thoughts about water in the comments. I'm waiting for your ideas and suggestions on the water crisis and the precautions we can take. I'd be very happy if you subscribe and support us.